Hey everyone, want to get another video up on my YouTube page. Went back and looked through some of the questions that were given from everyone, and thought I would cover the best recovery supplements or strategies, and thought I would cover. Someone asked about body types and dieting, so I thought I would cover those two things. So the basic body types, and most of us aren't a true mixture or aren't a true of one thing. We're more of mixtures. But so you've got the ectomorphs. They are going to be much frailer bodied, narrower shoulders, just more straight up and down. But they're also going to have smaller hips. Just their bone structure is going to be a lot tiny. They're not going to be heavily muscled. Sometimes the limbs are longer, but you don't have to be tall to be an ectomorph. I would say most of my makeup began ectomorph. I'm a lot more meso now, but began more ectomorphic. Ectomorphs are going to have a hard time gaining weight, size, and a lot of times they're going to be able to eat more carbohydrates because their insulin sensitivity is just naturally better. I found that ectomorphs really should kind of get in and get out at the gym. Depending on supplementation and recovery abilities, 6 days is not always going to be great for an ectomorph body type. A lot of times, 4 days a week, going hard, hitting personal records, and doing things like that are going to work really well for an ectomorph. Then you've got, I'll come back, by the way, and cover the dieting strategies. But then you've got your mesomorphs. These people are going to be a lot more broader shouldered, just more naturally muscular looking. Maybe think of like the running back in high school or something of that nature. They're just fuller muscled, not as skinny, generally not as small boned either, but still will have a nice wave, real nice V taper to them naturally. That's more mesomorphic. Usually this body type can take a little more pounding. 5 to 6 days, even for a natural athlete, is probably fine. If you're supplemented, then definitely 5 to 6 is going to be okay in general. And then you've got your endomorphs. Those are the people that naturally are going to be more pear-shaped. They're going to carry, especially in women, they're going to carry more body fat. A lot of times I see like kind of wide hips, narrow shoulders. It's not always the ideal body type to be a bodybuilder or a physique athlete, but there have been plenty of meso-endo type bodybuilders who've been great, because endos can put on muscle very easily, but they can also put on body fat very easily. This body type's really hard to overtrain. They can take a lot of pounding in a contest prep, and a lot of times their calories have to get really low. So now let's take a step back into when I'm looking at someone and assessing them. I actually have a question on my questionnaire that says, well, when you were in high school or when you were just hitting through puberty, were you but was your body weight okay? Were you in a good area for your body weight? Were you naturally too skinny? Were you always heavy set? And that starts to give me a general kind of normal or natural what someone was as their phenotypes. So I usually ask that question because you can kind of change it over the years and how your body reacts through building more muscle, through living the lifestyle, things of that nature. So, but it's good to have an idea of what someone's true first type, their body type they were. And a lot of times I'm getting people who are, they've maybe competed 2 or 3 times, but they're still getting into this. So they're still showing a lot of their original body type traits. So it's good to know what they were. And then I also assess the body. Like I said, I gave you the characteristics of what an ectomorph is, what a meso, and what an endo. So right away, I'm looking at these in the pictures and thinking, okay, so my general guidelines, because I don't always follow this, but general guidelines for those of you out there who are just getting started or, are a couple years into this. So for ectomorphs, generally speaking, 30% protein, 50% carb, 20% fat. I find that ectomorphs do better when they're not overly fed protein, use a lot of carbohydrates for them, and they don't usually do well with high fat intake either. I know for myself, I still exhibit a lot of that tendency, and when I diet, if I'm going to have carbs in my diet, my fats need to be pretty low for me to drop weight. If I put a good amount of fats in with carbs, I'm going to be strong as hell, but I'm going to struggle to drop body fat. So it seems like for me, being partly ectomorph, I can diet on carbs pretty well, but I need to get my fats pretty low. So 30, 50, 20 is about where to start. And then, you've got to decide how to go from there. Sometimes, a lot of times what I'll do is start dropping carbs as we go and upping protein, but you should get a nice response at that first 30% pro, 50% carb, and 20% fat. And then, of course, the starting calories are going to change for most people. So I can't really give any more specific numbers than that. Mesomorphs, usually I go really balanced, 40, 40, 20, 40% pro, 40% carb, 20% fats. Seems to work really well for them, and then I will manipulate it as I go, take the carbs as far down as I have to go. A lot of times carbs will go lower for the mesomorph to get in shape. So that's about a percentage to start there. Endomorphs generally tend to do way better on fats and higher protein. So I usually am looking at, after I determine kind of their body weight and caloric intake, I am going to look at a 50% protein intake, a 20% carb intake, and a 30% fat intake. And then usually I'm pretty sure, I know that at some point in the diet, they're going to end up on a ketogenic type plan to get peeled, maybe even with protein veggie days. That's not to say the other body types won't have that as well. It's just to say that with the endomorph, you almost know that's going to happen, and you probably should get there quicker than later. So that's kind of covering the body types and percentages and how to kind of start out your contest phase. But those percentages actually work really well for growing as well. For an endomorph, again, I'm not going to use a ton of carbohydrates in the off season. I'm going to carb time them and keep their carbs maybe at 1 gram per pound, and do the rest of the caloric intake by upping protein and fats as we go. So those ratios still work pretty well in the off season, but by no means am I saying stick 100% to those. I'm just saying it's a nice place to start, and those are kind of things that go through my head as I'm seeing body types. I don't always sit and get my calculator out on it anymore, but it's just kind of what's going through my head as I'm setting up the beginning macros. And then recovery. So recovery, the question was, I'm always sore. What recovery subs? So really, recovery, I don't want to get too much into supplements per se. I would say it's more of your nutrition. Make sure you're eating enough calories to be in a surplus to match your training, and also nutrient timing. So make sure, I'll get plans from people and their pre-workout is like an apple and peanut butter, or it's like a banana, and then post-workout, they might hit a banana or a protein bar. Like, these are just not recovery setups. So pre-workout, I'll tell you what I have. I don't like a ton of protein, but I do get my protein in. I'll have about 25 grams, usually just from tuna or fish, something light, sometimes whey iso. I'll do cream of rice pre. I do really well on rice. So I could do jasmine, but I usually just do cream of rice, and then I'll hit some coconut oil in that as well. And then intra, when my training's really on and I'm wanting to recover, you should put some intra carbohydrates in your BCAAs and your EAA drink. So you're getting more essential amino acids there, which come from protein, obviously. You just don't have to, go through the digestion process and hard on your belly while you're trying to train. And then you can add in some carbohydrates for the intra. And you'll find that by doing that, your soreness is going to go down a lot. There's some good products out there for intracarbs. A lot of people will just tell you right away, go cyclic dextrins, and those are good. They're a little more pricey. I also use Carbolin, and it doesn't give me a problem. But you do have to play with it. Some are going to give you problems, some are not. I will tell you that you need to get a lot of water in with these powdered carbs, but that's going to really help you getting your BCAAs, your EAAs, and then that intra carb drink while you're training hard in the off season. And then post workout, again, a protein bar, something like that's not going to hit, not going to work. So what I do usually is I'll use my New Ethics Whey isolate. I like it. It doesn't bloat me. It's only got 5 ingredients. So I hit that New Ethics Whey ISO right post workout. And then sometimes post workout, I'm doing something a little slower, sometimes a little faster. I don't get into the like quick sugars and things post workout. I kind of just pull from things that I really feel like eating. That might be instant real mashed potatoes. It might be just some oatmeal. Again, and I usually throw in a few fish oils and call it a meal. But you want to bookend your training with a nice supply of protein and carbohydrates, and then you want to get that intracarb in with your BCAAs and EAAs, and that would be the only supplements that you really need to be recovering. You can throw in citrulline malate for pump. You can throw in beta alanine to get more reps. You can throw in creatine. I don't really know that glutamine does a whole lot. It might help your GI tract, but I don't think it's doing a ton when we take it orally for recovery, as we once thought. So I would probably save my money on that. But yeah, so it's not really a supplement thing that you're lacking if you're always sore. It's really, you got to take a look at your nutrition. And I would start with the para workout, so your pre, intra, and post. Get that on point and then see how you're feeling. And I think that's going to take you pretty far rather than me throwing a supplement at you. So I hope that was helpful. I'm signing off for now.